Okay, hi guys. I am back with the last chapter of our read aloud of Magic Tree House number 13, Vacation Under the Volcano, and this is by Mary Pope Osborne. So this is going to be the chapter 9 read aloud, so if you haven't seen the other 8 chapters, please go and listen to them before you listen to this one, or else you will not know what is going on. So I'm going to go ahead and open up to chapter 9, and this is titled, Save Us. The bridge must have caved in, cried Annie. They stared at the dried-up stream. Pumice had piled up in huge drifts like snow. We'll have to get through that stuff to get across, said Jack. He and Annie slid down the bank onto the piles of pumice. As they started to move across it, more and more fell. Jack tried to move through the millions of warm grayish-white pebbles, but he was trapped. I'm stuck, cried Annie. Me too, said Jack. Remember what Morgan said Annie. At the moment, Jack couldn't remember anything. He was too tired and dazed. In your darkest hour, only the ancient story can save you, cried Annie. Where's your bag? Jack lifted his bag into the air above the sea of pumice. Annie grabbed it and pulled out the ancient scroll. She held it up to the dark sky. Save us, story, she shouted. Jack felt himself sink deeper and deeper into the pumice. Suddenly, he heard a deep voice say, Rise, son. Then someone lifted Jack up into the air. A great flash of fire lit the dusty darkness. In the red light, Jack saw the biggest, strongest man he'd ever seen in his life. The man looked like a gladiator, or even bigger than the ones they had seen earlier. He held Jack with one hand and Annie with the other. He placed them both on the outer bank of the stream. Run! The giant gladiator boomed. Before it's too late! Jack and Annie didn't stop to ask any questions. Together they charged through the olive grove. They jumped over fallen branches. They leaped over great cracks in the earth. Finally, they came to the tree with the magic tree house. They grabbed the rope ladder and scrambled up to the tree house. Where's the Pennsylvania book? Jack shouted. He was too blinded by ash and dust to find the book that always took them home. I've got it, cried Annie. I wish we could go there. Jack felt the tree house start to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely, wonderfully, peacefully still. Chapter 10, A Simple Explanation. Jack didn't move. He had never been so tired in all his life. Breathe, said Annie. Jack gulped in cool, clean air. He opened his eyes. He couldn't see a thing. Take off your glasses, said Annie. They're filthy. Jack took off his glasses. The first thing he saw was his backpack. The white tunics and lace-up sandals were gone. So were their pillow hats and leather bags. Jack let out a long, deep breath. As he cleaned his glasses on his shirt, a voice came from behind him. I'm very glad to see you safe and sound. Morgan Le Fay stood in the corner of the treehouse. She looked as lovely and mysterious as ever. Happy to be home? She asked. Jack nodded. The sound of the erupting volcano still echoed in his ears. It was pretty scary, he said in a hoarse voice. I know, but you were truly brave, said Morgan. You witnessed a famous event in history. Nowadays, scientists study the remains of Pompeii to find out more about Roman times. I feel bad for all those people, said Annie. Yes, said Morgan, but most of the people of Pompeii did escape. The city wasn't completely buried by ash until the next day. We were almost trapped, said Annie, but we asked the ancient story to save us. Then a huge gladiator helped us. Jack reached into his pack. He breathed a sigh of relief. The scroll was there. He took it out. It was covered with dust and ashes. Here's the story, said Jack. He handed it to Morgan. I am deeply grateful, she said softly. You risked everything to bring this to me. I can never thank you enough. Don't worry about it, said Jack. He didn't want Morgan to know how scared he had been. Yeah, no problem, said Annie. Morgan smiled. You are an amazing master librarian, she said. Do you think you're up for rescuing another ancient story? Yes, said Annie. Now? Said Jack. Actually, he was a little tired now. Morgan laughed. No, take a nice vacation. Come back 2 weeks from today. Then you will take a trip to ancient China, she said. Ancient China? Wow, said Annie. Oh man, said Jack. Go home now and get rest, said Morgan. She handed Jack his pack. Thanks, he said. Bye. Bye, said Annie. Morgan gave them a little wave. Then Annie and Jack left the treehouse and headed down the rope ladder. When they reached the ground, Jack looked up. "Morgan," he called, "what is that story about, the one that we just rescued?" "It's called The Strongest Man in the World," said Morgan. "It's a lost tale about Hercules." "Hercules?" said Jack. "Yes, he was one of the heroes of the Greeks and the Romans," said Morgan. "He was a son of Jupiter." "Oh, wow. Now I get it," said Annie. "I'm taking it back now to Camelot's library," said Morgan. "Everyone will be so excited to read it, thanks to you." She waved to them. "Goodbye for now." As she waved, the wind began to whirl. The treehouse began to spin. In a blur of shadow and light, Morgan and the magic treehouse were gone. Jack and Annie started walking through the woods. Get it?" said Annie. "Get what?" said Jack. "We were saved by Hercules," said Annie. "We asked the story to save us, and Hercules appeared." "That's not possible," said Jack. "It was just some gladiator guy. The story of Hercules is a myth. That means he never really lived." They left the woods and started up their street. "I know it's a myth," said Annie, "but I have a simple explanation." "What?" said Jack. "Hercules is a myth to people in this time," said Annie. "But in Roman times, lots of people believed he was real. So since we were in Roman times, he was real to us." "I don't know," said Jack. "Did you ever hear the saying," said Annie, "when in Rome, do as the Romans do?" Jack laughed. "Yeah." He looked up at the sky. "Thanks, Hercules," he said softly. "Whatever you are." "Jack, Annie," their dad called from the front porch. "Time to go." "Oh, brother, I forgot," said Jack. "Yeah, I hope nothing exciting happens on our vacation," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. "I hope it's really, really boring." "Hurry," their dad said. "Coming," they called. Then they took off running for home and a restful vacation. And that is the end of our story of Vacation Under the Volcano by Mary Pope Osborne. So I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I'll be back tomorrow with another read aloud. Bye, guys.